This is our Etter+Ramli's live webinar for Managed Success, deploys NetSuite through Commandos. So it is really understanding what Managed Success for Etter+Ramli NetSuite is all about. So before we dive into the webinar, just a few house rules. Please keep your microphones muted so we can have a smooth session. And any question, experience, insight, you can put in the chat box or wait at the end of the session because we will definitely reply to you and address that. And this webinar will be recorded for those who couldn't attend the webinar today. So thanks everybody who has attended and who's attending this webinar. We know that your time is precious. So before we dive into the most exciting part of NetSuite, let's just go over Etter+Ramli and get yourself acquainted with us. As I said, Etter+Ramli is actually not working for NetSuite. We are working for the NetSuite side, NetSuite client side of the community. We have highly trained, specialized forces, all for NetSuite. We are a NetSuite shop. We don't do SAP or other cloud ERP, but this is really more of enabling the existing NetSuite clients to buy NetSuite confidently and grow the usage and utilization of their NetSuite system. So we are your overall quarterback, as I always say. And now we move on to the, just introducing myself. So I'm Ria Rodriguez Richardson. I came from the epicenter of Oracle NetSuite. I've done 200 plus customer logos and 200 plus customer acquisitions from the Philippines, Asia Pacific, and now still winning in North America. So they call me the goal getter because, I don't really say no when I'm already dealing with customers. And my 7+ years experience with Oracle, and when they bought NetSuite as their small to medium size cloud ERP, makes me a seasoned veteran of this product and the market that they serve. So if you can go back, May, to the previous slide, just to show the statistics and the milestones of Etter+Ramli. Okay, so you can see that our team is composed of certified analysts. We have been present in 36 countries. We are truly global. Our clients are from North America, Africa, Europe, Asia Pacific, and even Australia. So we follow the sun, and we're proud to say that we have 900 NetSuite users and growing as of today with 258 subsidiaries. So this is really like a big number when you talk about a service provider like Etter+Ramli. Because we get all this and we collate all the information and experience from different verticals and industry and give the best practice to our customers. So moving on, we go to the mains. I am proud to introduce our NetSuite super admin, project manager, and now the CEO of Etter+Ramli, Todd Kimpton. So Todd Kimpton is, I call him a very well-balanced NetSuite representative. He also came from NetSuite principal office, and has served customers as a customer success director. So he has been involved in numerous projects and had go live implementations of about 95, close to 100. And he ensures project time delivery. It's a high batting average of 87%. And I think the beauty of having Todd by my side today is that we know NetSuite and he knows the business process. He understands the business and not just fully, selling you technical jargons. So that's very important. He has also rescued a lot of implementations that was abandoned, or those customers who suddenly just partnered, with a team or a freelance and couldn't get the projects going. So I truly believe in the man. So thank you, Todd, for this incredible sharing. And
Thanks,
that's what
Ria.
you're doing to the market.
Thanks,
Todd
Ria.
is based in Singapore, so it's his evening.
Yeah, thanks, Ria. Appreciate
All right. Yes. So let's move on to the main topic. So everybody's asking what managed success is. And the program Managed Success by Etter+Ramli is a method-led program for NetSuite clients. And the first thing that we need to understand, and even not with, NetSuite or with other cloud implementation, is the resourcing mix. So Todd, walk us through the
Yep.
critical success factor, especially your experience for more than 20 years.
Happy to, happy to. So we've done a few of these now to explain what managed success is all about, and specifically about what we call the success plan. Resourcing is a really important part of it, and resourcing incorporates really how do you get the right skills into the business to be able to run the system effectively. Um, because we're a managed service provider, we bridge all these gaps, but it's important to understand that to get the most out of a system, from a client side perspective, you've got to make sure you've got these really critical skills bases covered. Um, and they include leadership, functional, technical, and then data. Um, they're important. They're individually different, though some people can do two of them, maybe three of them. But individually, they're a different skill set. And nobody I've ever seen has all four, and yet all four are essential for understanding all manner, in order to understand it, get success really working. If we just touch on leadership, leadership is a really important quality, and what it really means is it's the binding of stakeholders, or sorry, the aligning of stakeholders with the system and its objectives. It's about establishing a roadmap that ties with business objectives and the prioritization of areas for improvement, through a consultative approach that allows everyone to minimize the risk of change, and the impact of change, whilst maximizing the opportunity for success to prevail. Um, if that prioritization or the organization of those improvements is wrong, then it can be quite a difficult task. So what we try and really do through our leadership is we put structure into the improvement process, um, and really bring the business together with the platform that they've used to run on, which obviously is NetSuite, and bring them into that picture. So that's critical, because if the business doesn't buy in to these improvements and doesn't set agenda, then it doesn't get the level of traction it needs.
Yeah,
But by
yeah,
the same
definitely.
token, if you don't have the right functional skills, then it's also too difficult, because the functional skills enable us to deliver the functional needs, into the business, and that means support. It means patience. It means working with users. It means thinking about the business problems of the coalface. It's a very different skill set. And this skill set is important for making sure that the system is running effectively. People's skills are at the maximum, processes are at the most compliant, and responsiveness to do it. The system's being maintained. There's level of administrative rigor in the way changes are deployed. Um, this level of or this skill around functional delivery is a very different set of capabilities.
Agree. It's very different. These are the people who work with them second after second, hour after hour. And leadership has that executive time that is so precious that they act as s- executive sponsor to drive, timelines and give
It
their opinion, right?
it
Direction.
it's that's the problem, Ria, because in order to lead effectively, there's often that skill, has perhaps less patience than's needed to get users to buy in effectively. Um, and so if the leader is taking care of the functional delivery, it really is a case of two hats, and that can be a very difficult kind of Jekyll and Hyde type
Kind of
problem.
stressful. Yeah. And you've seen that happening,
Yeah,
with
yeah,
all the projects that you have.
yeah. I mean, look, over the years, there's been a lot of these things, and I'm pretty good on the functional side, and I was able to move through these things reasonably well. But that's part of my personality. But it's
Yeah.
certainly a risk for the business, in that if if that lead person who understands the functional has the trust of the users, is also leading the leadership's opinion on what's going on. The risk is that you have a feedback loop that's too tight, and that becomes too dependent, and not enough rigor in the process, and not enough understanding of the broader implications. And that can really close down thought and really escalate risk, which is why I talk about these things as skills rather than people. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You've been close to the situation. Yep. Your
Too many,
credentials,
too,
yeah, speak.
too many times. Too many
I
times.
know you're very, very close to the situation, the real ones. So, yeah, when I also talk to customers, I often hear about with their cloud ERP implementation, NetSuite. They are having trouble understanding the technical side of it. Integrations to their Celigo, PAAS, or
Right,
Salesforce.
right,
So,
right.
can you walk us through that technical and maintenance skills?
Sure, sure. I mean, look, I mean, NetSuite ships with this terrific development platform, um, that's fully functional and fully capable from a customization perspective. Um, for the longest time, the directive from NetSuite, into the consultants was really, do as little as you can on this customization layer. But of course, it's there, and it's there for a reason. NetSuite as a product is a flexible product. You can configure a lot of things, but sometimes the process just doesn't fit. Um, and therefore, you need to step into the realm of customizing, or into other things. But in all of the customers that we have, virtually all of them have got some level of customization, some level of script, some level of automation that's moved beyond the system. Um, and and that's just a function of nature. It's just what happens. The but the skill set that's needed to build and maintain, that piece of IP is not leadership. It's not functional. It is absolutely about the developer, programmer, the technical, and the maintenance. Um, and that skill set is again just chalk and cheese, from what the others do. This is deep in the code. It's writing code. It's doing what programmers do. Um, and and so to make this work effectively, that programmer needs to have a business analyst who's running the functional side with users to understand the requirement, and can bridge some of the functional, configuration aspects of the system, and then bring that together with the developer to be able to create the solutions necessary. And it's that interaction of skills that's critically important. And so now we're starting to get into this triangulation where, in order to be successful, we need to identify the priority for improvement. We need to make sure that we've got the board, the leadership on board with that improvement, and we need a technical person to go and enable that improvement so that everybody wins. Trying to get all of that into one person, the NetSuite guru, is an impossible task. It's really trying to use the axe as the hammer, as well as the drill, and it just doesn't work. The end outcome will almost always be something that is incomplete, not good enough, and absolutely prone to risk, because inside of that exchange, when you have these people involved, you have a total grouping of skills that make the that bring it all together. Yeah. All of this comes down to all of this effort around skills, dealing with users, dealing with stakeholders, writing code, all comes back to one basic point, which is we're trying to make sure that data is good. And data maintenance and data management has evolved in the cloud. We're no longer dealing with DBAs who are running the database. What we're doing is interacting with the data architecture, and we're placing that as a really high priority, because ultimately the system, if that's the vision and the purpose that the business places on it, the main drive of NetSuite is often to be the center of business intelligence, to be the driver of this information. But to do that effectively, we have got to make sure that we're capturing the right data in the right place in order to validate that people are doing things properly. They're moving through the process well. They're moving through it in a timely, realistic way, and that talks about data compliance and process compliance and the process gates. And then on the other side, that every transaction is structured properly from a data perspective, that we're not dropping things off. And I'll tell you a little story later on about some of these lessons learned. But this skill is different from users. It's different from technical, and it's different from leadership, because this is all about how do you make sure that the database is well populated with structured data in a way that maintains its integrity at the absolute highest levels.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, even I've been talking to you for some time now, like more than 6 years, and I've been talking to and managing implementation partners also of NetSuite. I've never seen a detailed advice as complete as how you break it down. Because normally, I think, our audience will also like relate to this when they present the whole, modules and functions, features of a system. They are shunning away from a database manager expertise. This is usually hidden from the pre-sales, demonstrations. They really don't just say that, you've got to have a good database expert to ensure that your analytics or your KPIs will show you the precise, and accurate metrics day in, day out.
Yeah, I mean, look, the main thing about that, Ria, is that it's assumed to be a high quality data exhaust that gets created when people do things correctly, which really allows us now to talk about stories, because there's so many stories in this realm that have really shaped a lot of the thinking. I'll give you one story. I was once a customer of NetSuite back in the early 2000s, and I had an option. There's an option in NetSuite. It's a general preference. Do you want to use abbreviations for states, or do you want free-form states? Now, I was running the business out of Australia, and I sort of didn't really get the impact of it. So I just said I'll take free-form states. And so every customer that came in got Victoria, Vic, capital V, small v, New South Wales, NSW, QLD, Queensland. I mean, every variation you could imagine. And I never cared, because I was worried about what our business was doing for the whole country, not what it was doing in a state. So 5 years later, when I sold that business, the first report that the acquirer asked was a sales by state. And I'd never run this report because it was never interesting to me. And the first day I ran it, I saw that I had 48 states in Australia, which is an impossibility. And that spoke to, that was a lesson learned for me about the importance of making sure you know the data you need to know. Now, it took me a little while. I got the report done. But if you're, if in order to make sure that you've got data that is good for posterity, you've got to make sure that you're managing it on a day-to-day basis today. Now, it's very easy to overlook these data points. So one of the things that we do now for clients, we every 6 months we run analysis on our customers, and we're checking about 60 different data points that represent the gates inside of their processes. So the simple ones are things like, every invoice needs to have a sales order. That's a process gate. And if people are not doing, or if that's not occurring, then there needs to be a reason why that's not occurring, because it formulates an internal control. So we've got 60, I think it's 62 process gates that we try and check against in different customers' configurations. That's only one side of the story. The other side of the story is we check the time duration between those gates, so that we can assess, particularly in multi-subsidiary environments, really how compliant the users are in doing things. And what it does is it throws up very interesting situations. I'll give you an example. A client of ours, they run about 24 subsidiaries, about 100 users. There was one part of the business, one subsidiary, which was adamant that they did everything properly. And the team and I were a little bit sus on it. We weren't so sure. And so then we ran some searches to check the time gates. And what we found out was that 14 of the 15 subsidiaries had on average a 5-day break between sales order and invoice. But for some reason, this one business that was advocating how great they were managed to get it all done on the same day. And when we asked them, they were also a manufacturer, so we went back into them as well. We were talking to them about how long it takes them on average to build a customer order, and on average it takes 4 days. And so we started up probing questions to why the sales order and the invoice are created on the same day, and this sort of stumped them a bit, because they were of course looking at the sales order, which was dated 5 days before the invoice. But it was never done that, because we were looking at the internals of it. We were looking at the date that the transactions were created. And so they were trying to prove to us that everything was compliant, but in reality it wasn't at all. It was all a big hoax, and that uncovered a lot of resistance, a lot of issues, and it made the team focus down on what were the important parts to play in fixing that process gate. Anyway, so we're talking about data management, process gates, and how to make sure those things get done. And there's all manner of stories in there.
Yeah, that's a lot of insights, Todd, from your real deep experience. So thank you so much for sharing it.